Hello, and welcome back to T. Shaw's Progressive Bluegrass. We've got a fun and unique show today where we have a conversation with Katie Kirchner, behind-the-scenes bluegrass superstar and music business professional. I'm not going to attempt to introduce her here. I think she is much more qualified to do so herself. So without further ado, here we go to my conversation with Katie Kirchner. Okay, well, Katie Kirchner, thank you so much for joining me today. You've got more titles than I can shake a stick at. You manage Full Chord. You book for Full Chord. You're essentially married to Full Chord. You sometimes perform with Full Chord. You're also a booking agent for Chris Jones and the Night Drivers, and you are semi-managing, if I remember correctly. You're a booking agent for Christy Cox and Rebecca Fraser. And you're also the booking agent and management for Becky Buller.
Becky Buller.
Yes, I am. My bad. I apologize. Did I miss anything?
No, you got it all.
That's amazing. You are a bluegrass superwoman. So,
it's in my heart.
well, you must live, breathe, and eat it with that many responsibilities.
I really do. I definitely do. You can't have that level of responsibility without knowing it like this.
How do you manage it all?
If it's what I do. It's just it's part of my life. You know, people talk about that work-life balance, but it is also my life. So that kind of makes it easy. And I don't have office hours. You know, these artists, they live artist hours, and I'm available for them. But that means I get to sleep in too. So
Well, and we originally communicated about doing this. You had mentioned every time you thought to get back to me was 3 a.m. And I have a feeling you're frequently up at 3 a.m., and it's not because you're out partying.
it's very rarely because I'm partying. Typically my day will start about 11, and really the only person that gets me up early is Becky. We have a call on Tuesdays at 9 a.m. and she'll giggle when she hears this. I don't know how many times I've missed that call. It, it's a thing.
Well, I can believe it. We originally first met through Full Chord specifically. And I definitely want to make sure that we cover everything I initially spoke of. But Full Chord's the one that I'm most familiar with. And
Same.
if I now you kind of started, I'm assuming Full Chord started right before COVID, realistically. Is that because the first album was in 2019, correct?
No. Full Chord started in 2008, and I'm a founding member. I fiddle and I sing, but I don't fiddle like those guys fiddle, so I don't play with them anymore. I'm a fun fiddler around a campfire when everybody's been drinking. So that's my style of fiddling. But I took a step back from that, and as my career in senior living was growing, and I grew through into executive leadership and doing acquisitions around the country, and moving into a leadership and mentorship role, and then COVID happened. But in that meantime, there have been, gosh, Full Chord released Ready to Burn, I want to say in 2009 maybe or 10, and then Chop, which has Todd's father playing banjo
That was
on
in
it.
October of 18.
Was it in 18?
Uh,
Chop was in 18?
October 20th, 18 was the release date that I found doing a little
Well,
preliminary
good thing.
research. And
Good
so
thing you
I
know. Yeah.
assumed Chop was the first album. That's why I thought maybe you got things going
No,
right as COVID happened.
no, Ready to Burn is out there in digital format on Bandcamp. You can listen to it on Bandcamp.
Really?
Really?
All right. All right. I'm learning something new. So you
Uh-huh.
were a founding member then, and the group
Yes,
has changed a little bit over time. You've had a
it
couple
has. Yeah.
members come and go.
Yep.
Do you have a banjo player right now?
Not a permanent one. George Guthrie, formerly of the Wooks, he's a Nashville kid and a dear friend of ours. He's been playing with the band off and on for about 3.5 years now, I want to say, kind of about the time that Lloyd Douglas took a step back for his career of being a train engineer. Not joking. And but he wants to do some more educational side of things, studio stuff, and is going to take a break on touring. And living in being from Michigan, there's only so many really good banjo players in our state, and we know them and we love them and we use them as we can. And it just kind of depends on where the guys are traveling. They'll play with Lloyd Douglas as often as he can play with them. He's an incredible banjo player. His brother's Chris Douglas plays bass for Michael Cleveland.
Bluegrass is so interconnected.
It really, really is.
I
Yeah.
use the term incestuous, and Catherine always gets mad at me when I use that term, but
Hmm.
it's the
It
best way to
it
describe
is.
it.
Oh, it is. It
Everybody
is.
plays with everybody.
Yep. Even with those transitions of players coming and going, the three core members, the two original members to this group are Eric Langyans and Todd Kirchner. Todd is my husband, and they've just got this great sound between bass and guitar. They've been best friends and playing together since we met Eric in 2007. And they've got that boom chuck on the guitar and bass that is just rock solid, and you know who you're hearing when you hear those two guys. And then Brian Oberlin on mandolin, old friend of all of ours. He moved back here from Oregon. He lived out there in Portland for 13 years. And he's just an incredible songwriter, one of the best vocalists on the scene, highly underrated. People should be paying attention to this guy's vocals and mandolin playing.
Well, and
So those three
he
guys.
writes a lot of the material too, does he not?
He does. He's the primary, what we would call music director, I suppose. It is his day job and night job. That is what he does. He writes, composes, arranges. He started and developed the Oregon Mandolin Orchestra that is still there to this day. And then he also runs a mandolin orchestra out of Grand Rapids and then helps out with the one in Kalamazoo. And he'll write music for them or arrange music, whether it's classical or swing. He's a huge classical nut and has albums. You can find Brian Oberlin on streaming platforms and just press play. He's got 22 albums. He's been on 22 albums.
Holy cow.
So, yeah, brilliant, brilliant musician and composer, and in arranging and lyrically, it just kind of comes out of him. And it's the guys are blessed to be able to work with him. Yep.
Well,
So, but they've still got that sound. It's those three guys. It's the full chord sound. You bring different banjo players or a different fiddler in, and they've got their personalities. But the guys are picky. They've got the certain banjo players and fiddle players that work with that groove and add their own flavors, and it's fun. Sometimes if it's Grant on fiddle or Chase Potter on fiddle, all of them are a little bit different. They all make you giggle, but they're all fantastic.
well, the first time I saw full chord would have been, I guess it was the Billy Strings post party. Was it
In the
Grand
hotel.
Rapids? Yes, in the hotel in
Yeah.
2019.
Yeah.
That was probably the
Right. Yeah.
first, and so that wasn't really a full show per se, but that
No,
was
it
my
was just enough.
initial introduction to full chord. And
Yeah.
then,
Well, and that's kind of how they got popular in Michigan, was doing those kinds of things and campfires and playing in the woods at places like Wheatland and Hoxeyville and other festivals. So,
and just a quick sidetrack. What is with Michigan producing so much amazing bluegrass?
dude, I don't know, but it is a hotbed. It really is a hotbed. And I understand why a lot of those musicians choose to leave. When you live in Michigan, we're on this, it's a peninsula, for lack of better terms. That's what it is. And, we can't, for
Two
touring
peninsulas, actually.
purposes, two peninsulas, for touring purposes and musician purposes, it's difficult. It takes a long time to get anywhere. Yeah, so but for a very long time, they were able to just stay in Michigan and make their money in Michigan. And then about the time they played Romp and things started to pick up steam and they started to get noticed is when we finally took the jump and started touring them out of Michigan.
And I know 2021 Romp was when you won the band
Hmm.
contest.
Yep.
And that was probably the first time I saw you perform, was Romp
I
2021.
think I think it was. I think it was. Yeah.
Because you did the late night stage and the main
Hmm.
stage. And that was when it was in the
Correct.
fall, I want to say, because
It was,
of,
but it was so damn hot.
yes, yes, I do remember that. That was amazing. Full
It was
Court
a lot of
also
fun.
went on to win the 2022 IBMA Momentum Band of the Year and the 2022 Telluride Bluegrass competition.
Yeah. 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 That was pretty incredible.
What's next?
I don't know. I don't know. Next would be selling out rooms, for people to take notice. It's one of those bands where you can hear their music online, but my goodness, you need to see a show. You really need to take a chance, buy the tickets, and go see the show. It is fun. It is funny. Their banter is funny. Just, the acumen in the skill of the music and the relationships together, they're a lot of fun. They're not as much as they can play traditional bluegrass and their lives are rooted in traditional bluegrass. You hear a lot of that in, I want to say, in some of the licks and the teases and the backfills, and it's kind of the foundation of their songs, but they'll go off the rails. Not like Billy, they're not using pedals, although we've discussed some pedals. I'm a big fan of a phase shifter on a banjo. Be Still My Heart, Hot Rise. But it's just a lot of fun. If you really want to watch music and really enjoy the skill, they're a good band for you.
I would absolutely agree that the live full court experience is completely different than what you capture in the studio. And it's not that the
100. Yep.
studio's not, it's good, but if I want to tell somebody about full court, I
Hmm.
really don't immediately push the studio. I push them to
No, same.
YouTube or,
Yep.
wherever
I
you
do
could see
too.
the live performance because I feel like it's not two different bands, but it's two radically different perspectives.
It really is. If you look at a 2 minute, 35-second song or a 3 minute banger, that's what we call them in this world, a banger, a 3 minute banger, those were cut down. They get on stage and those songs are typically 6 to 8 minutes. And they just have fun trading off and getting a little jammy and spacey using instruments, not, there's no pedal formatting at all yet. So it really is different. You can listen to the songs and they're songs you know and love, but the show brings a different vibe.
And kind of mentioning banjo players,
Hmm.
I discovered Matthew Davis after
Matthew Davis.
his time in full
Yep.
chord, and
Yep.
then found out that he used to play with full chord
Yep.
before
And
I knew
Circus
full
Number
chord.
Nine.
And
Right, but you were aware of Circus Number Nine.
yes, and that's where I
Yeah.
initially was introduced to Matthew. And I'm going to go out on a limb because you really can't ever prove me wrong or anybody wrong. It's an opinion, but he's the best banjo player I've ever witnessed.
Ding ding. I think he is one of the best banjo players I've ever heard. Yeah, he
Just
he really is.
mind
Um,
blowing.
Here's another thing about full chord. It's very strange. The banjo players. We've already talked about, some switch up in musicians. We had one banjo player that left to because he's a train engineer. That's a big job. It's a dream job, for a lot of people. And he's got a pension on the line. And there should be a song written about that. But the other banjo player, Matthew Davis, he left to go to school to become a priest. There's also a song there. It's just been, we have good stories to tell, but they've played with some of the best musicians in the world. Matthew Davis is one of Bela's kind of proteges. He, ohm banjos are some of Bela's favorites, and I think has possession of an ohm that was Bela's that he sold to him.
I didn't
Yeah.
know that they worked together. I mean, was he an instructor? I never knew that.
I don't know if he took lessons with him or just kind of in a mentorship role. I'm not quite sure how in depth that got, but I know there's a few folks out there that Bela's kind of taken under his wing in that regard, and Matthew was one of them.
Well, I know there was one time you pulled him out of retirement to help you out.
Hmm.
Is there
Yes.
ever a possibility that might happen again?
There is a possibility that that can happen again. That was a fluke, too. He doesn't usually have his phone with him, and he happened to be on spring break at the seminary. And
Okay.
I called and he answered, and and I was like, "Hey, the guys are going to Telluride for the band competition. Are you in?" And he was like, "Absolutely." And it was a lucky stars kind of moment.
It's kind of bringing a ringer to the contest.
It is. It is. It was a trade-off. So we toured for 2 weeks. I put a tour together out there and we toured for 2 weeks, drove out there. We picked him up in Lincoln, Nebraska, where he's going to school. The trade-off was we had to make sure he got to a Catholic service every single day and Latin service if available. And I made sure he got to service every day, but the final day when we had to drive back.
That is amazing. And
Yep.
I certainly want to ask you a question about one of the most unique aspects of band management and one of the things you
Yeah.
never expected you'd be doing. That's got to be on a short list.
It's one of those things you never thought you'd have to ask. But having had toured with Full Chord for so long, I stepped away from being in the band and touring with them a year ago, September, to run my own business and just kind of let them go, let them have their wings and do their thing. Um,
Congratulations,
but
by the way.
Thank you. Thank you. But having been a musician on that end of things for so long, you see the other side of things and you see what's lacking. And that's where I come in. How can I make their lives more comfortable? How can I make sure they're taken care of? A lot of some of the festivals or venues, that is not their top priority, or it's not something they've thought of. So I do my best to make sure that they have what they need to be comfortable and fed and have what they need, including Latin Catholic Church services.
That's amazing. So, one of the other things I've got to mention before I forget,
Mhm.
who designs the merchandise for Full Court?
Well, we've had multiple artists over the years that I've hit. A lot of Michigan artists. I use mostly, almost all the time, Michigan, but I put together the merch. I pick out the hats and the shirts and the stickers and lighters. And, I bring it to the guys and say, this is what it is. This is what it's going to look like. Do you like it? But I do all that.
Is there a story behind the beaver hatcheting himself that's relatively recent?
Well, yeah. So
Which is awesome. It's awesome,
that
by the way.
people love him. He is a play the guys love Grateful Dead. They're huge Grateful Dead fans, and they take a lot of inspiration from not just the Dead, but some of their side projects, Garcia Grisman, Olden in the Way, and some of the other projects that might have been more on the country side of things or jazz and swing side of things. So one of their albums has the kid on it with the ice cream cone, and that is what it is. And the band name Full Chord, like a full cord of firewood, not a chord like on an
I
instrument.
was going to ask why it's spelled that way.
Yep. So you look at our merch, and a lot of it is wood centered. On occasion, we do wood pins or coasters, wood themed artwork. The logo has a big jack pine saw blade in it. So the beaver was just kind of natural. And then the hatchet.
And then the
And of
Facebook fan
course, the
group, The Woodshed.
correct. Well, also, and when you're practicing, it's called woodshedding. So it's
Ah.
kind of a double double meaning there. But yeah, and some of the albums, Ready to Burn, Chop, Cambium, their album cover on Hindsight has a tree on it. So there's always that theme that weaves in and out of it in one way or another.
And I bet it's
Um,
misspelled all the time when people are like
Oh my gosh, it
doing
was
show bills
misspelled
or
this past
whatever.
weekend. It's everywhere. I've been encouraging people to start taking pictures and posting it as and start making memes because it's so fun. I it's and that's one of the things as a manager and an agent, I'm like, you just saw me send over 90 emails over 6 months trying to plan this and sign contracts, and you still spelled it wrong.
One of my favorite musicians is Randy Steele, a banjo player, by the way, and his
Uh-huh.
name is
Yeah.
spelled Steele.
EELE.
And he constantly gets it spelled
Hmm.
incorrectly on
Hmm.
T-shirts and posters and everything else. It's just
Yep.
he can't get away from it.
Yeah, it's very consistent. So now I say it on the regular, kind of like with Becky Buller with her last name, like you said, Bueller.
Like I just did, yeah.
That happens so often that when she goes to a festival, we have a sheet, an MC sheet that we send over, that I send over ahead of time for their MC to make sure they spell it or say it correctly because
Yeah.
it happens constantly. Yeah.
Well, one more quick question about the merch.
Yeah,
You had
yeah.
mentioned to me one time that you will replace a full cord lighter when it becomes empty.
Absolutely. Yep.
I will have a full cord lighter for the rest of my life. I've
Good.
got
I'm
two of them.
glad.
I've got
You're
to
not
trade in
alone.
now.
So yeah, if you buy a lighter from us and it runs out of fluid and you bring it to the booth, you will get a new lighter.
That's amazing. I'm holding on to them.
Do it.
I will. And that's amazing marketing. If you should almost advertise that at the merch booth because everybody's gonna always have a full cord lighter, knowing that they can get it
You're
replaced.
right. When we hang up, I'm gonna go make a sign. You're not wrong about that.
I mean, because nobody would ever. Oh no, don't throw it out. That's a lifetime lighter,
Hmm.
or
And it gets them back to a show.
and it gets them back to a show. Absolutely, yeah. That's genius marketing.
Yep. Can't purchase them online. They're only available at shows. So, yep.
And since we were talking about lighters and you mentioned the story, tell us the lighter
Oh
story.
boy.
It's a good one.
So it is a good one. Hoxieville up here in Michigan, not this past summer, but the summer before, the guys are out on stage playing, and I look down and I see a red cowbell. And I hold it up, and Brian looks at me and says, "Yeah." So he runs side stage and he grabs the cowbell from me. And I run off to go grab some drumsticks from a friend of ours that's backstage so that Brian can, have some fun. They have fun. That's what I'm saying. Well, Brian didn't want to wait for the drumsticks. So, side stage, he sees somebody's lighter sitting out on an amplifier in the sun,
Not a
grabs it,
full cord lighter, by the way.
not a full cord lighter, grabs it, goes back to the microphone and starts to play rhythm, gets into the second beat, and the lighter explodes. Poof, smoke. It cut his ear, and he's up there bleeding.
Oh, I had no idea he was
And
hurt from it because he
oh yeah,
kept
the
playing.
plastic ripped. Yeah, he did. The plastic ripped right through his ear. There is video of it out there, and it is hilarious. And it's hilarious to watch it multiple times at the different responses of band members. Grant backs away because he doesn't know what's blowing up next. Ricky stops playing and looks at Brian like, "Oh my gosh, are you okay?"
He's lucky he didn't lose an
It was
eye.
ridiculous. He is very lucky he didn't lose an eye, and he had his in-ear monitors in, and it was so loud, and Todd was standing right behind him, and it would have hurt his ear because it exploded right next to his face. So yeah, but there was a friend of ours out in the audience that has since become a very good friend of ours and has designed quite a bit of artwork for other things that immediately went home and drew up an exploding lighter that says not for cowbell use.
That's awesome.
And so that's on a lighter, and but he's since drawn up some other things that are now on koozies and some other places. He's a good buddy.
Okay, so that was in 2023 when that happened.
Correct. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
What's the wildest story from 2024? Now that we just finished 2024, what do you think's the funnest one?
I'm gonna go recent here and say it was just the other night on New Year's. We had Chase Potter in town and George Guthrie in town, and those are the guys that are gonna do some touring with the guys. It was a really fun night and lots of lasers and lots of fun and lots of friends. But Stephen Mogen flew into town to sit in with them at and Stephen Mogen is the guitar player with the Sam Bush band, and he is Full Chord's record producer, also with Dark Shadow Recording. Stephen and Yana Mogen run that, and their son Sammy is a gem and does a lot for them. And just a wonderful recording family to be a part of. But it's been a joy to have Mojo around. The guys have been with him for a few years ago now,
I
and
believe it was
he's
the
in my house
two
right now.
two most recent albums he's helped produce or produced.
Oh no, just the one.
Just
And
one.
the
Okay.
most recent Christmas song.
Okay. Okay.
This recent Christmas song called Christmas Cheer. And if anybody hasn't heard it yet, it is the coolest bluegrass song that reminds you of the old Bing Crosby feel good Christmas songs.
I
It's
am
cool. It's a
guilty. I'm
cool
going to
song.
listen to it as soon as we're done because we
Dude,
still have our Christmas tree
it's
up. I still
so
have Christmas spirit going.
I took mine down yesterday. Yeah, while the guys have all stayed in town and done some album pre-production, and Mojo's here right now. We just went out to dinner, and the guys wrapped up 2 long days of pre-production, so they can go into the studio prepared.
So, what's the target for the next album, release date wise? Do we have some mapped out yet?
It is mapped out. I'm not. I know there's going to be singles come out, and then the album in its entirety. It it may be in the fall. It's possible. I'm not quite sure of it yet. I have a schedule, but I'm not exactly sure because those things shift, so it's really hard to hold that down yet.
I completely understand. Even just doing podcasts, I've gotten way off schedule.
Uh-huh.
So, I get it.
Yeah, and with Mojo touring with Sam, things get really busy for that guy.
Yeah, I can imagine. And he's probably producing other musicians and artists too on top of it, I would imagine. Or you the
Oh, for sure.
exclusive.
He
Yeah.
really is. Yeah, Dark Shadow Recording is Becky Buller, full chord, Rick Ferris, Laura Orshaw, who used to be with the Po Ramblin' Boys. She's an incredible singer and fiddle player from the Northeast. She lives down in the Nashville area now. And then Henhouse Prowlers are on that label. And so it's just a really great family of bluegrass musicians that we've come to know and love. He has a lot of other people that come through the studio and record with him because he's very good at what he does. So there's some bigger big names that come through and work with him. So that's nice.
Well,
He has a
I've
lot of
only heard
access.
a handful of his work, mostly with full chord. I would agree. It's excellent. It's really well
Right.
done.
Yep.
One, two. It's a big purchase, it's a big deal. Cherish all, know exactly how you feel for refinance or a new home. Cherish all will help you get your loan. Cherish all will help you get your loan.
Hello, I'm Trevor Shaw. I'm not just a bluegrass aficionado. I'm a bluegrass aficionado that's a mortgage loan officer at Chat Mortgage in Chattanooga, Tennessee. I'd be honored for the opportunity to help you get your residential mortgage loan or refinance anywhere in Tennessee and Georgia. From veterans using their hard-earned benefits to first-time home buyers needing down payment assistance to retirees finally getting the home they've always dreamed of. Call or text me today at 864-50-T-SHAW. That's 864-50-T-SHAW.
It's a big purchase, it's a big deal. Cherish all, know exactly how you feel for refinance or a new home. Cherish all will help you get your loan. Cherish all will help you get your loan.
Chat Mortgage is powered by Almeida Mortgage Corporation, NMLS number 271603. Chat Mortgage is located at 6650 East Brainerd Road, Suite 208 in Chattanooga, Tennessee. Phone number 423-591-9801. Trevor Shaw, NMLS number 929381.
Yep.
You had mentioned
Yep.
Becky Buller for the third time now. You've got a lot going on
Yeah.
outside of full chord. Tell me a little bit about
Oh, I
what you've
sure
got.
do.
Yeah, with
But
scratch
Becky
the
was the first
surface.
person I started. Yeah, she was the first person I started working with after outside of full chord when COVID happened and my career in senior living. I had to work every day, and I went from being a mentor and a leader to needing to become an epidemiologist, and it became very difficult. The general population became quite volatile. It became a place where I was no longer appreciated, but was seen as the enemy. And it put me into the most significant depression I've ever had in my life. And it on a Friday, I had some scary thoughts. By Monday, I was done with that career, supported and backed by my family. And then
Good for you.
everybody, thank you. It was
Because
a
I'm
hard
sure it
decision
was
because it's what
a
I knew.
well-paying job with benefits and
It was a very good paying job.
all the
It
stuff you
it,
don't get
it
working with bluegrass bands.
Nope, nope, you don't. But I don't have that level of anxiety and depression anymore. So that's good. But I was really supported by primarily the guys in full chord with the touring and tour managing. And they were like, you're really good at this. Like, you should help other people out. And we were at IBMA in 2022 and we were up in the Dark Shadows suite, and I was talking to Ned Luberecki, and I said, I'm just looking to get into this more. I wanna talk to some other artists. And he said, really? Because Becky's sitting in the back room right now, and she could really use some help. And I had never met her before. And I walk in the back room and I looked at her and I was like, hey, I heard you could use some help. And she just looked up at me and dropped her arms and was like the angels singing kind of thing. It was one of those moments.
Oh, that's awesome.
And she immediately just kind of poured trust into me. And what does she want to do? What does she want to be doing? Where does she want to go? Who does she want to do that with? What are her goals? And as a working mama, we were both at that time working and touring moms. And there's such thing as mom guilt, and it is significant for a touring artist when you're out on the road. And we really just meshed really quick, and we're still working together. And she has a new song coming out tomorrow that is huge.
And by the time anybody hears
And
this, it will be out already.
it will be out. So I'm going to tell you who's on that song:
Okay.
Allison Brown, Missy
Oh,
Raines, Molly
wow.
Tuttle, Sierra Hall.
Wow. That's an all-star
And
lineup
it
right there.
and it is a cover. I can't remember who did it originally, but Newgrass Revival also did it. It's called Reach, and it's amazing. And it comes out at midnight tonight. But by the time you're hearing this, it will be out, and it's going to be super popular, and it's going to chart because it's a banger. It is a banger of a bluegrass song, and those harmonies, those girls, get ready for goosebumps.
That's awesome. I can't wait.
Yep,
Yeah,
yep.
that's the all-star crew right there for sure.
It really is. Good things on the horizon for her. She's going into the studio soon too. But yeah, and then I was nominated in 2023 for Momentum Award at the IBMAs for industry involvement, but I was really new. This all happened so fast, but I was thrilled to be nominated, that people were taking note. And over that week and weekend, I had multiple other artists want to meet with me and approach me, one of them being Chris Jones, DJ on Sirius XM. He's also a DJ on Willie's Roadhouse, and just a wealth of knowledge and information on music of all kinds, and just such a wonderful person to work with. I have thoroughly enjoyed working with him and his band, and also work with him on a couple of his duos.
I've met him a few times and not in any depth, but just seems like a true gentleman. Just a really very genuine nice guy.
He is the voice you hear on the radio is him. That you and I could just He could read recipes to me and I would love it. He's just that kind of guy. He lives up in northern Alberta, Canada, and I think right
Really?
now there it's like yeah, it's like -30 or something right now.
I couldn't imagine. That's
I
no.
know.
Uh-uh.
And he's always in airports. Most of our meetings happen while he is in airports.
No
'Cause it
thanks.
takes like 4 flights for him to get home.
I I could never be a
So
professional musician for that reason alone. I don't mind road trips,
yeah.
but airplanes, airports, no way. Just
Mm-mm.
hauling your
Yeah.
instruments on
Oh
board and
yeah.
fighting, no.
Oh man, it's
No.
such a nightmare. These airlines, maybe someday, maybe when I grow up and become an adult, maybe that's something I'll start doing, is lobbying for that kind of thing, because this is their livelihood. Something's got to give. I don't know. It's a real struggle, and it's such a high level of anxiety for these people. Flying and travel is already full of anxiety and mishaps. But when you are depending on your instrument for your to feed your family, and somebody's giving you a hard time about putting it in the overhead, even though it fits, and you're so scared you're going to get kicked off the flight and then miss, a $10 or $15,000 gig that would feed everybody. The anxiety that comes along with that is a shame,
And never
and it
knowing
it
on
shouldn't
every
be the
flight
case.
which ones are going to cooperate
Every
and which ones aren't.
every single flight, every single flight. There are laws in the United States only that once you are on the actual plane, once you've crossed that step onto the plane and you have your instrument with you, they cannot make you take your instrument off. So it has to fit in the overhead, or you can buy a seat for it, or on occasion, if you have a nice, what do they call them now? Flight attendants. Thank you. They have a closet that on occasion they'll help a musician with, but they always fit in the overheads, always. But it's always a problem. So I really wish that kind of anxiety could lessen for them. In the meantime, I try to help them with everything else I can. Oh yeah, I'm also working with Compton and Newberry, Mike Compton and Joe Newberry. So there's that too. Couple legends there.
I'm not
So,
familiar with them,
so
actually.
to so Mike Compton is Nashville Bluegrass Band, and he is yeah, the movie Oh Brother We're Out Thou. He is a Soggy Bottom boy.
Okay. Okay.
And he toured with John Hartford's band for like, I want to say it was like 17 years.
No
John
kidding.
Hartford was one of his best friends. Oh yeah.
See,
Mike
that's somebody
Compton.
I should
He's
absolutely know. Bluegrass is
you
constantly
should.
introducing me. This
Yep.
wormhole is never ending with
It
bluegrass.
it isn't, and you really should know him. There's a lot of stuff out there with him in it. If you watch old documentaries or videos, the dude in the overalls playing mandolin, that's Mike Compton. He still does. I got him, they played the Opry a couple of months ago, and I flew down there for that. And he wore overalls on the Opry with a blazer, with a jacket
That's awesome.
and a bow tie.
That's awesome.
So yep, just incredible, incredible musicians and the stories that I hear from them. I've often joked about turning my Zoom calls with Mike and Joe into like a vlog because they're funny.
So Becky's got the 9 a.m. Tuesday call. Do you have a schedule for all of the bands similar where each week at this time we're touching base on the plan or the tour or whatever's going on?
Yeah, the only one I don't is Chris Jones because he spends so much time traveling that it's really hard to nail that down. So we just touch base once a week. But I'm texting back and forth with them all the time. We're calling, we're emailing,
And I assume
we
all
have
of
an
them
app.
turn ringers off so you can text 24 hours a day and not bother each other. Or
Right.
no?
Yeah,
Okay.
pretty much. Yep.
You'd have
Yeah,
to.
pretty much.
You'd
Yeah.
have to.
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
All
But
right.
none of them are invasive. None of them are like that. They are all really good, and they know, they're if I tend to be a little busier on that side of things on weekends when everybody's touring, because that's when little issues come up or they need me to handle something. And a lot of them tend to work a little bit more when they're on the road and just sitting in a passenger seat or sitting on a plane. So their wheels start turning, and I get the what about this? And let's talk about these dates. And
It keeps you busy.
so it's a joy.
I,
It
I, don't- I don't
does.
know
It
how you can
does keep
squeeze
me
all that
busy.
in. That's a lot. That's a full plate. And you don't have an assistant.
Yep.
You're doing it all on your own, right?
Right now, yeah, I have an assistant on board that she'll probably be with me on a more regular basis come springtime when touring season picks back up. But she's in the bluegrass world, got her on kind of, on standby for when I need some help. While all of this is going on, I also do some stage management and produce different events and am also for hire for tour managing if somebody needed a short run tour manager.
Your
um,
schedule's not
those are things
full
I love
yet.
to do.
And
I
so
mean, yeah, it's not, but it is.
I do mortgages for a living. It's way more fun to talk about what you do.
I'm sure of that.
I mean, there
Yeah,
is a mortgage podcast in this world. There's a few of them, but it's just how to be a more effective mortgage broker. It's not
I'm gonna
something the
take your
general
word for
public
it.
would ever want to listen to.
No,
So, or talk
nope,
about.
probably not. But what you may learn in things like that, you're dealing with different kinds of people. And part of my training in the mentorship world and executive leadership world was learning different personalities, from empaths to extroverts to even working with people that have some mental illness or, health conditions, inclusivity and teamwork, primarily teamwork. How can you get the busybody or the type A personality to work well with the empath? How do they make a team? And getting them to see that in each other and appreciate that in each other, rather than it be a, well, they don't work like I work, so I don't like them kind of thing. So that my background in that has worked wonders. I talked to so many people on the phone from all over the world. And I'm talking to 95-year-olds to 20-year-olds to 17-year-olds and everything in between, all walks of life. And being able to kind of read and gauge where those conversations need to go to be successful for everybody. Not everybody can do that. It's been really interesting. The basic rule is just be nice. Be nice. And they'll scratch my back if I scratch their back. That is exactly how this world works. This genre of bluegrass, I tell you what,
Well,
there's a
it should be
lot of
more than
back
just
scratching.
bluegrass. Everybody should just be
I
nice.
know, but it's not. I also manage a jam band out of West Michigan here. Their name is Desmond Jones. They just opened for Dopapod's last Michigan show this last weekend. And I've been working with those guys for about almost 3 years now. That world is very, very, very different. There are no The podcasts don't respond, the radio stations don't want to do interviews, there's no magazines that want to do articles, champion there's no championing of jam music in that scene.
Why
If
is
there is,
that?
prove me wrong, send
I
me
never would
some
have thought.
links.
Yeah, well, what's that
I
about?
don't know. I think it's an offshoot of rock and roll, right? And rock and roll is a very different thing. It's a very different beast. And while everybody in those scenes worked just as hard as everybody else, the bluegrass scene, I think they're a little more down home folk. It doesn't really go to their head. Like, Del McCurry goes into the same restroom as you do. These bluegrass musicians, they don't have private jets. It's because they don't even if some can afford it, they don't. It's just not like that in this world, and I value the partnerships and the relationships dearly.
I would have assumed all genres are like that. I'm just checked out now. That's
And I'm not involved in other genres, but that has not been my experience with jam band. There are, like there's some podcasts out there, and I've gotten the guys a couple of podcasts, but primarily they're few and far between. But if the guys are doing tours, to get them on a radio station in that city, we stop trying because it does not happen. And
well,
that
and
blows my mind because bluegrass radio stations, they're like, yes, give us content, give us stuff to talk about. Let's do this. Let's talk about it. Let's shine a light on these amazing musicians. They're all champions.
that's wild. I never would have thought of that. That's wild.
Mhm.
And so, coming from the business part, you said touring season obviously during the winter, people don't tour as much.
Mhm.
At least maybe a New
Mhm.
Year's run. But we briefly talked about it a few weeks ago. A lot of festivals are struggling right now. A lot of them have folded, bluegrass more
Mhm.
specifically. And
Mhm.
I've seen a lot of festivals that do still seem to be, I don't want to use the word thriving because I'm not involved in the business, so I can't say for sure, but a lot of festivals are now cross pollinating. It's getting harder and harder to find a straight bluegrass fest where you'll find bluegrass
Yeah, it
bands
is.
at festivals, but you have to listen to a bunch of other stuff as well.
I have theories on these things. And also, part of my old profession was being able to predict trends, financial trends, employment trends, financial trends for families and people that lived in that demographic, and to be able to see what it was going to look like a year from now. And that's naturally just kind of been something that's been easy for me to see in this world now that I'm involved in the underbelly of it. Some of the theories I have on it is things were really great. COVID happened, and then and just before COVID, let's go back before COVID, a lot of oh brother, we're out thou comes out. Billy's starting to take off. It's really starting to click with people. I want to say 2017, 2018. And you start to see these festivals that are one genre and one genre only, just jam bands, just bluegrass, just country, just rock and roll, just jazz, and there were enough people and enough money in those people's pockets to support those things. And they would go to multiple every year. Then COVID hits, and we come off of COVID, and those festivals had to pay people out. They lost money on insurance policies. They lost leases. They lost city permits, which are almost impossible to get back once they lapse. So there's a multitude of reasons that those things are happening. But when we come back from COVID, now we've got some of these festivals that are just one genre and one genre only. And people have kind of become homebodies. They've kind of become that dopamine hit addict, lay in bed and doom scroll on TikTok, and they want more. They want more than that, and they're being pickier about where they spend their money. They're tending to spend their money on destination events. I started seeing that with just post COVID, with the drive-in concerts
Sure.
and things like that. People were spending big dollars on those things, and I started to see it happen then. And about a year ago, I started predicting exactly where we sit right now, where festivals are closing. I did see a report last week from the National Independent Venue Association that said in Europe last year, 158 venues closed. 158.
Wow.
That's mind blowing.
And this
I
is
can
venues.
hardly
This
tour
isn't
a band.
festivals.
These are venues. I can hardly tour an artist through California right now. There are no venues. There's almost no venues under about 350 capacity left. There just aren't. And people aren't buying enough tickets to support the larger venues. So all we're seeing are tribute acts. And bless them, those musicians deserve to make money. They've worked their asses off. They're pivoting, they're doing what they need to do. I applaud what they're doing, and to keep that going and to keep their profession going. That's not the nut and bolts of it. But people are really being choosy about where they spend their money. Let's take this most recent Billy shows in New Orleans. You know, people have been planning that for a very long time and spent thousands,
Yeah, nobody
thousands.
went to just
And they
one night.
knew,
They went all three
no, and
nights, and
all three
hotels are
nights, and
expensive.
they knew last July that they were going to save money to do that kind of thing. So they don't have money, and they don't have $250 or $180 or whatever it is for the festivals through this summer, because they've, there's not, nobody's living with disposable income right now. Not most people. We all know that. It's there, and people with plenty of money, there's not enough of them. So it's not like it used to be. But, when these kinds of conversations are happening, one of the repeated things I'm hearing people say, when they say, we don't go to shows anymore because we can't afford tickets.
Yeah, bluegrass is a
Yes, you
very
can.
affordable, with
Yes, you can.
few
A
small
$15
exceptions.
ticket, a
Yes.
$10 ticket, a $20 ticket, even a $50 ticket. There's a couple of fees on those. Pay the fees. Get there, support the bands. Not paying the fees. Going on standing on that mountain and saying, I'm not going because of the fees, doesn't hurt the people collecting the fees. It hurts the musicians that showed up in that town, and it's a lonesome crowd, and they don't have enough money to pay their musicians, and now they probably can't come back to your city because nobody bought tickets, or not enough people bought tickets. That's the issue I'm having, is people will buy thousands of dollars worth of tickets, airlines, hotels to destination venues or festivals, but they won't spend $20 with a $6 fee to prove some kind of point, and it's really, really affecting people. I don't know how we battle this. I don't know how we get over it, but I am afraid, and here's my prediction for this coming year. We are going to be left with only arena shows and tribute acts. These small venues are going, and they're going at an amazing, incredible pace. I had a venue. I'm not going to name these venues, but I had a venue that just told me a couple weeks ago they are no longer doing bluegrass on Saturdays because it's not selling.
That's terrible.
I had a venue on the East Coast tell me they're taking a break from bluegrass in 2025. I had a venue last 2 weeks ago tell me they won't book a show in September until they know how a show for somebody else is going to go in this coming February because bluegrass isn't selling. So you got a lot of people out there that are big bluegrass fans. Billy has brought it to so many people that just didn't, they didn't know it existed, or they just thought it was like the knee slap and one tooth kind of,
Yeah, the
dueling
stereotype.
banjos. People aren't, they're not trying new bands. They're not going to bands they haven't seen before anymore. And a lot of these bands aren't going with openers anymore because they can't afford it. They can't guarantee that tickets are going to sell. You see big bands touring together right now all the time. Why do you think that is?
Most of my favorite bands I heard or discovered for the first time as an opening act or at a festival.
Correct.
There's not a
Yep.
lot of
And
them doing that now.
there's not because they can't guarantee that they'll be able to pay those artists. There are some artists that can. They just don't. It's kind of difficult to bring a band on the road with you. And that used to be a thing bands did a lot more often in any genre was pick a band and go on a full tour with them. Some bands still do that. They'll pick a band and do 3 dates with them in a certain demographic and then pick a band from another region and do 3 or 4 shows with them. But we're seeing less and less of that. It's, the bands that are really, really drawing these crowds in, they provide an incredible show. I'm a huge Billy Strings fan. He's a friend. I adore him and I love what he has done for this music.
And you guys go way
But
back. I
but I
mean,
do
you were playing with Billy when
we do.
he was with Don Julian or even before that, weren't you?
Before,
Yeah.
yeah, he was in a band with my father-in-law, and my father-in-law helped or taught him how to play old-timey banjo. And yeah, so I've known him Traverse City days, but Todd and some of the other guys remember seeing him around as a little kid in Ionia here, Saranat, Charlotte Bluegrass Festival, Milan, Michigan Bluegrass Festival, which is no more. That's another one that went down. Not this. They didn't have a festival this year. So, what I would say is a call to action, for some of these big, big artists, not necessarily to bring bands with them, but to maybe start talking to their audience. Like, listen, there's a lot of good stuff out there and it needs to be supported. It's part of their heart and their love, and it's part of our heart and our love. And I'm not sure what needs to happen or how we team up or how we all work together on that, but I truly think the people are doing what they see right now. They will listen to their icons. They will listen to the people that they really, really love. I think it would be helpful. I really do. I
I would agree
I f- I
100%.
I feel like that's a missing miss. I feel like that's a missing piece of the puzzle here. It is not lost on me at all that it's may the best man win kind of thing. I have heard people say, well, if it's the best bands that make it, and that's always been the case in life and with music, and I understand that, but that's not how bluegrass has been, but that's what's happening, whether we like it or not. And really trying to dial down where are people seeing shows. Us baby bands, we'll talk about a show every single day, and then 2 weeks later we'll get messages saying, I didn't know you were in town.
Oh,
So,
that's
the days of
heartbreaking.
being able to put up shows on Facebook are gone, and nobody expects these people to follow everything like that. Who's going to go to a band's website every other week and check to see where there's new shows because they didn't see the posts? There are some other avenues. If anybody wanted to kind of break away from that or they were frustrated, bandsintown.com is a wonderful resource for that. You go in there, you set up your profile, and you click what kind of music you like, or specifically what kind of bands you like, certain bands even. And then it
I
will
have
send you
definitely
notifications
benefited from bands in town.
it's amazing.
It
Um,
really is.
when I used to travel more, I would get notifications of bands in the area I was in because it picked up my location. So, or, you can choose to turn that on and off. I know some people don't want to be tracked, but it's a wonderful resource. And I'd love to see more people going to that format so that bands could start relying more on that.
Well,
Newsletters are still a thing. Sign up for bands' newsletters.
I had just assumed
Hmm.
until just now that everybody who liked bluegrass was on bands in town. And I
Yep.
definitely learn about
Yep.
bands that, a smaller band like a Thomas Castle or something. Oh, he's in town. I had no
Hmm.
idea, because of a band's in
Hmm.
town email notification.
Bands in Town is strictly a gig-based program. You can go to their little page and it will show you where they're playing and you can purchase tickets from right there. And it's one-stop shopping in regards to accessing live music in your area for bands you like.
It
I
helps
yeah.
too. There's links usually to a map program where you can look up
Yep.
hotels and how to
I
get
know, isn't it
there.
nice? It's really a cool program and they've done a lot. It's one of those things where, again, I say it, my call to action would be to the fans to help yourselves, help us. We'll help you. You help us, we help you. We want to bring this music to everybody and we need to figure out a better way to get it to them. And then that other call to action would be to these bigger artists to start telling their fans this, to start talking to their fans. There's lots of great music out there. We all know they're not going to lose the money from those fans. They're still going to buy those tickets. They're still going to buy that merch and go to those shows. But they will also listen to their idol. They will.
Absolutely. And I agree with you.
Yep.
More opening bands. It's just a great way to
And
discover.
and more opening bands.
Yeah.
Yep.
Which, okay.
Yep. And
For
and
the
then you get, the big bands that are touring together, there's a reason for that. Some of these popular bluegrass bands that are touring together that are great bands, they're pairing up because venues are not selling.
full chord, we've got an album coming out probably in the fall.
Yep.
What about Rebecca Frazier, Christy Cox,
Oh, Rebecca
Becky?
Frazier. Let's talk about Rebecca Frazier. Can
Okay.
we talk about Okay. So
Let's do it.
Rebecca Frazier, we'll talk about the others too, but Rebecca Frazier, I didn't know who she was. She came onto my radar this summer. And she was big in like '02, '03, '04. She left the scene to raise a family and now has two amazing teenage kids that are really great musicians. And she's back with fire in her belly and ready to go. And she is an award-winning flat picker. She won the flat picking contest at Rocky Grass. She's won the flat picking contest all over. She's won them all over. The girl can flat pick. She is also one of the biggest deadheads you ever meet. So she throws teases and things in like that. She's a lot of fun. I'd say of all the bands I book, Rebecca Frazier and Full Court are your kind of stand-up crowd bands. They both love playing to sit down and listening crowds as well. That's a treat for them.
Sure.
But yeah, catch Rebecca Frazier. Honestly,
And
check her out.
you had
Yeah.
mentioned her to me a few weeks ago when we were speaking, and I
Mm-hmm.
was not
Mm-hmm.
into bluegrass in 2002, 2003. So I heard the name, but I wasn't really familiar. So I
Right.
just pulled her up on Apple Music, and at least the most recent album,
Dude.
she's got a lineup
Uh-huh.
from out of this world.
You think?
I mean, her
Yeah.
backup
She
band is headlining musicians.
It is, yeah. Her road band is different, but they're all incredible musicians. I've seen them live. I can vouch for it. They blew my mind when I saw them in Grand Rapids a couple of weeks ago. And she's headlining Tico Time. She's headlining, oh gosh, there's another festival out there that she's headlining. It's been pretty incredible to start working with her. She is a go-getter. She's an amazing songwriter and she knows everybody. And she is on Compass Records. That's Alison Brown's record label. And Compass Records does a great job for her. Yeah. And then there's Christy Cox, our Australian queen of bluegrass. She's got the equivalent of country music awards in America they have over there, and she's got 5 awards under her belt, and she's up for 3 more coming up this year.
Wow.
She's an incredible songwriter, does a lot of collab writes with people. She's got a lot of songs on charts, even on top songs for 2025 on the different charts. And she's got a stellar lineup too. She just picked up her new bass player is Cody Tinnon. He played bass with Stillhouse Junkies. So she's got an incredible band. I'm thrilled with the females in my life that are just out there killing it. And it's been a pleasure. It really has to work with them.
That's awesome. I know you've got a very full year. We're probably going to have you come back in the fall and pick up all the loose ends that have taken place in 2025. I'm pretty excited about this year.
You know
feel
what
like
I would like to happen, Trevor?
what's that?
You know what I would like to see? I would like to come back in the fall and listeners can prove me wrong about my predictions. That's what I would love. I would love to say I was wrong about the future of venues and bands and ticket sales. That's what I would love. Let's see if we can help make that happen.
So let's make sure we support Bluegrass. Let's go out and buy
That's the
tickets.
long and the
Go to the
short of it.
show. Get off
Shoot,
our
even if you
asses
can't
and
go to
go
the
to the
show,
shows.
spend $15 and buy the ticket. Even if, maybe you can't go. Like the ticket, support the band coming to your area so they can come back and maybe you can go next time.
I hope we
Yep.
do prove you wrong. I think that'd be great, and
I
I hope
would
I
love
contribute
for
to
that to
that
happen.
and get people
I
out
hope you do
there.
too.
And
I think you will. I
and
think you will.
and I'm excited to do my little bit.
Let's do
I
it.
mean, it's bluegrass. Everybody's happy.
Exactly. So, well, cool. Well,
Yeah.
hey, it's been wonderful to talk to you. I've really enjoyed our time together.
I always enjoy our time.
I definitely hope we can get you back at the end of the year and talk about how wrong you hopefully are.
So wrong. I want to be so wrong. Yeah.
Well, I'm
I need
certainly
some
not going to,
help with it. And
but
I will remind you to say it.
fantastic.
Yeah. All right.
Well, good luck in 2025 and beyond with all of your
Thank you.
projects and endeavors. And thanks so much
Hmm.
for joining T. Shaw's Progressive Bluegrass today.
You betcha.
I always find it fun to get the perspective of an insider, what goes on behind the scenes, just giving us a perspective that we oftentimes don't think about and certainly rarely see it. Hope you enjoyed what you heard today, and I certainly hope you come back again next week when we continue T. Shaw's Progressive Bluegrass. In the liner notes today, I'm going to feature Reach, the new single of Becky Buller's that we spoke of. I'll have one or two of T. Shaw's Progressive Bluegrass videos or Chris Jones and the Night Drivers from the Station Inn. And then I'm going to go ahead and grab a couple of T. Shaw's Progressive Bluegrass full chord videos. Haven't fully decided which ones I'm going to share with you, but I'm going to pick some winners. And that's going to take us to our sponsor, me, Trevor Shaw, Chat Mortgage in Chattanooga, Tennessee. I'm currently licensed in Tennessee and Georgia, but I'm looking to expand that. So if you need help in any state, don't hesitate to give me a call, and it might motivate me to get my license there next. 864-50-T-SHAW. That's Trevor Shaw at Chat Mortgage in Chattanooga, Tennessee. Thanks so much, and I hope you come back for more at T. Shaw's Progressive Bluegrass.
It's a big purchase, it's a big deal. Trevor Shaw knows exactly how you feel for refinance or a new home. Trevor Shaw will help you get your loan. Trevor Shaw will help you get your loan.
Hello, I'm Trevor Shaw. I'm not just a bluegrass aficionado. I'm a bluegrass aficionado that's a mortgage loan officer at Chat Mortgage in Chattanooga, Tennessee. I'd be honored for the opportunity to help you get your residential mortgage loan or refinance anywhere in Tennessee and Georgia. From veterans using their hard-earned benefits to first-time home buyers needing down payment assistance to retirees finally getting the home they've always dreamed of. Call or text me today at 864-50-T-SHAW. That's 864-50-T-SHAW.
It's a big purchase, it's a big deal. Trevor Shaw knows exactly how you feel for refinance or a new home. Trevor Shaw will help you get your loan. Trevor Shaw will help you get your loan.
Chat Mortgage is powered by Almeida Mortgage Corporation, NMLS number 271603. Chat Mortgage is located at 6650 East Brainerd Road, Suite 208 in Chattanooga, Tennessee. Phone number 423-591-9801. Trevor Shaw, NMLS number 929381.